Good morning, Prism mates. How we doing? So, there is no bill yet. Donald Trump does not have the votes for his big, ugly bill. As you may know, it is July 1st at 8:30 a.m., and they have been going at this votorama process since yesterday morning. It's been nearly 24 hours. They started on Monday at around 9:30. So what does this mean? Let's step back. They are fighting. There is not consensus. And before we get to the why and the who, let's talk about the bottom line. The sole purpose of this bill that Donald Trump is trying to enact, the major purpose of this bill is to take money and resources from the poor and the middle class, from ordinary people just trying to get by, and hand it over to the billionaires. But that's not enough money. So they're going to borrow even more money, right? They're going to increase the debt by trillions of dollars. I think the latest number is 3 trillion for the purpose of giving tax cuts to billionaires, 100 millionaires, and giant corporations. This should not be called the big, beautiful bill. This should be called the Adopt a Billionaire bill. Every one of us should be given playing cards with the photo and of the billionaire we are adopting. And I want to know, like, what is starving my neighbor, cutting my neighbor off food stamps, what we call SNAP, or letting grandma die because we can't pay for Medicaid because there's no nursing home or hospital nearby. What does that get? Oh, I know. It will cheer me up if I know my sacrifice paid for a new, a new chandelier on Jeff Bezos's third yacht. Isn't it worth it? Isn't that the American dream? Come on, guys. That is the sole function of this bill. But there is a second function. And it's on top, like layered on top of this giveaway to billionaires, because that's all the moneyed class and the corporate media really want, right? That's what they want. They want to cut services, defund schools, defund hospitals, defund healthcare, defund all the enriching things that we have in our lives, defund Planned Parenthood. They want all of that. They want to take money away from all of us, despite the fact that our budgets are supposed to be based on principles for the general welfare, right? They want to take away things that help us just with our basic needs so that they can give billionaires another yacht or another vacation home, or they can put their name, or another, should this marriage fail with Jeff Bezos, he can have another fancy wedding in Venice. Okay, so that is the main goal, but it's sicker than that. Because according to J.D. Vance, and really what Stephen Miller and Donald Trump want on top of that, is they want to further their white supremacist, nativist agenda. So what J.D. Vance said is all those cuts and all these other aspects of the bill don't matter to him. I read this. I get this quote from him. What matters to him is all the money they are going to be pouring in to the deportation programs, to building more prisons for people who are in this country who may be here with green cards, maybe have overstayed a visa, maybe came over without documentation, but have been living good and honest lives as part of their communities. They want to throw those people in more prisons and deport them. That is the goal. I think the numbers in the billions of dollars increases of various budgets. We're increasing the budget of ICE. It increases the ability to hire. I think right now there are 20,000 ICE agents. They want to hire 10,000 more. And to put that in perspective, if this budget is passed as written, and these parts aren't really being contested, I hate to say, there will be more ICE agents and FBI agents. There will be more space, incarceration space for immigrants who are not accused or charged with any wrongdoing to lock them up, these detention centers. Now, I can use the word detention center, but the reality is these are looking a hell of a lot more like concentration camps. This is worse, if you can believe it, than the internment camps the town set up to house during the World War II people of Japanese descent. This is worse because this is not keeping people there during wartime with their families and with schools and with businesses. This is a situation where people are locked in cages, right? And in some cases, let's just talk about this, what's happening today. They are opening up a new prison facility, a concentration camp in the Florida Everglades, which I don't know if you've ever been to, but usually if you're going into the Everglades and you don't live there or do some work around there, you are there going on a tour in these swamps where there are alligators. So they are putting a prison camp. They have built it, I think, over 2 weeks. And there was like a television tour of it. And Ron DeSantis, the fascist governor of Florida, was trying to claim, well, it's not so bad. And it's an open air, apparently, prison area. But no one can escape because otherwise, if they try to, they'll be eaten by alligators. This is what they are bragging. But it's so desperately hot and humid there. I mean, can you imagine in the hundreds of degrees? And so I guess they were trying to show off that there was some air conditioning facility, but you explained to me how you turn down the temperature of the air in an open air facility. I'm not fully aware of how HVAC works, but that doesn't sound right to me. Also, the ground is very hot, and they were talking about subfloors. This is utter fascism. And so I'm going to share with you, before we get into, I'm going to share this with you, what I'm talking about. Then we're going to back up and talk about why Elon Musk is fighting with Donald Trump and why this bill has come to a standstill temporarily. Okay, let's play this right now. This is Carolyn Leavitt, our fascist Barbie spokesperson for the regime.
Tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
Friends, I need you to just listen to this part and look at her and tell me in the chat whether you disagree with me. Is this not full-blown fascism? Is this not a nod to the celebration of the Aryan race when you have this blonde telecaster talk about possibly a torture situation she's calling of people who have, as you know, don't have to have much due process. I mean, they can be, by the way, if they're not being deported yet, they can just be taken off the street by ICE and put in this facility, and they're not going to get a hearing before a judge and the sort of right to habeas corpus, the right to say, take me out of this detention. This is a facility, an immigration type facility. So they can keep them here for God knows how long before they get a hearing. I don't know how long you would have to wait, but we are hearing about people dying in facilities. And Tom Homan's response when he was asked by the press, you know, people are dying. You're supposed to be, the borders are, people are dying in these facilities. And he says people die in prisons all the time. Great. That's his answer. Okay, let's listen to this. Listen to this part. And I want to see in the chat. Are you okay with this? And why? Have I heard more about a candidate for mayor of New York not denouncing a phrase that he didn't even say? And I hear so little about this so-called alligator Alcatraz. It's a nightmare. And it's cruel. And it goes beyond being embarrassed to be an American. I'm very worried. Very worried. So let's play this. Oh, let me, before I play it, I just want to add this other thing. Donald Trump's now even more emboldened by the Supreme Court's recent decision that nationwide injunctions to stop patently unconstitutional executive orders are not allowed. So where that leaves us, don't be confused. What we found out last week at the United States Supreme Court was that, remember, we watched together. It was an extra long show. What we found out Friday in the United States Supreme Court is that the actual litigants, the people who brought the lawsuit against the Trump administration, their names are on the lawsuit. These plaintiffs who sued the Trump administration to stop the executive order that would say their children born in the United States, for example, if you were a pregnant woman, it would say, you were suing saying, I want my child to be a citizen. That's what the Constitution says. If I was a plaintiff in that case, I'm still winning, right? Donald Trump did not challenge them. They just challenged the nationwide injunction. So again, if you were one of the plaintiffs in that case, that executive order won't apply to you. But nevertheless, Donald Trump went on television claiming that he had won and that this executive order meant that he could get rid of, that we were no longer going to have birthright citizenship. He did not win on that point. But of course, he can still say that, right? If you're a child who's born today, if you were born in a state where there was not a lawsuit, let's say you were born in Florida today, and your parents are not U.S. citizens, I don't know where you're a citizen of now. But if you're from one of those states or one of the people who brought the lawsuit, so if someone brought a lawsuit in your state, that law cannot be enforced against you. So if you're born in Florida to immigrant parents, you are not a citizen. What happens though, if your parents then leave Florida and move to Massachusetts? Are you then a citizen? It's all very confusing. But nevertheless, Donald Trump was emboldened, and now he's taking it to the next step. And this is where alligator Alcatraz is going to matter. Donald Trump is now investigating whether he can denaturalize U.S. citizens. Denaturalize. That means if you became a U.S. citizen, if you followed all the steps, if you took the test, if you pledged your allegiance to the Constitution, and you know, what a wonderful day in your life, your citizenship could now, he is saying, be taken away. That's his next plan. So when these camps that they're building, these concentration camps they're building to deport millions of people they're calling illegal aliens, what happens next? Who else, even before they finish that process, who else do you think they're going to put in there? Who else? It's not tomorrow. Fascism is here today. Authoritarianism is here today. This is not a democracy. It is not a democracy where we have a Supreme Court allowing a president to continue to enforce a patently unlawful executive order. It is not a democracy when we have a Supreme Court that rules that a president is virtually immune from prosecution for crimes he commits while he's in office. Dare I go on? Now, why am I getting out of bed in the morning despite this? Because we'll get through it. And we will not obey in advance. And it's not even in advance. It's now. So let me just play this for you. And now think about the fact that it's not just a friend, family member, or coworker who's being rounded up here, who was here unlawfully. Now think about it being a dissident. Thinking about it being Zohran Mamdani. That's what they're talking about. They want to deport him because they're claiming that despite the fact that he became an American citizen, he's naturalized, they want to take that away from him. That's the next plan. You watch. You watch. Now let's listen to this again.
And will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
Mass deportation campaign in American history. And she sounds like it's, and she's making it sound like a good thing. I mean, I come from the school and a life of immigrants, right? And we've talked about this before. A lot of people say, well, you know, my parents, some people will say my parents were immigrants, but they came here lawfully. Let me tell you, there was a time when there weren't restrictions on coming in, right? Let me also just tell you, Emma Lazarus wrote this poem called The New Colossus, and this is at the Statue of Liberty's base. And I want to just read you may not have heard the whole poem. She was born in 1849 and died in 1887. This poem is now in the public domain, by the way. Emma Lazarus is a Jewish immigrant to the United States. She came here from Portugal. So she's a Sephardic Jew. She came here and she worked as a translator. And so again, this is inscribed on a plaque at the pedestal at the base of the Statue of Liberty monument. Let me read this to you. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lighting, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air bridge harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Your wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That's the America I want to live in. This fascist Barbie spokesperson for this monstrous man and his sycophants. Really, essentially, the entire Republican Party. Doesn't matter that they feel pressured. It is on them. Any Republican elected official could speak out. I mean, Tom Tillis kind of did. He's not running for office, but no one, I have yet to see a sitting member of the Republican Party say that this is monstrous. I have yet to see anyone say it's wrong to do this to immigrants. I have yet to see anyone denounce Donald Trump. And that brings us to the somewhat good news. Republicans, craven and more interested in maintaining their power and the future of white supremacy in these torture camps and stealing from the poor to give it to the billionaires so we can all sponsor a billionaire's yacht. They have now to consider that it's not just Donald Trump pressuring them. It's now Elon Musk again. So let's take a look at the boys fighting. So yesterday at around 4 p.m., Elon Musk had this to say. Every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame. And they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing that I do on this earth. Okay, cool, Elon. Now, not all senators have a primary, because they have 6-year terms of office, but, every member of the House does. And on the one hand, this is kind of great because maybe it pressures them just to vote no. But on the other hand, think about what he's saying. He just doesn't like the fact that this is going to increase the debt by $3 trillion, right? So he wants more cuts, presumably, more cuts for the poor, more cuts to Medicaid. Remember how it was when he ran Doge? He just slashed and burned. So if they stepped up and made the bill worse, which there aren't the votes for, by the way, but if they stepped up and made this bill worse, that's what Elon wants. But still, let's not look at the details because the bottom line is they're afraid. And so everyone's afraid now because all the Republicans are going to have to get in line. They can only afford to lose, They can only afford to lose 4 of them or 3 of them. I don't have the exact number offhand. I think there can be a tie break. If they lose 3, if they lose 4, I think it's done. And the bill won't pass. So what Elon Musk is trying to do here is be that force, the counterweight against Donald Trump. If you don't side with Donald Trump, he's going to ruin your life. And Tom Tillis, North Carolina, decided it's not worth it. He's not voting for this bill. So that's now a seat in the Senate. He's up in a year. And that is now a seat that will possibly go to a Democrat. So that could be good, right? So that's the deal here. If Elon Musk is the counter pressure, then people who are looking at Tom Tillis thinking, oh, I should just step in line. I should just not step out of line. I should not, basically anyone who's considering not supporting this bill, who is afraid of Donald Trump, and that might have brought them to the table and gotten them to yes, is now also thinking, oh, shoot, I also might lose my job because of Elon. Now, it's not that simple. This was last night. This morning, here's what Donald Trump said in response. Let me just get out of the way so you can see this. Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history, by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved. Okay, I got 2 comments. One, let them fight. But the other, what the fromage? Why are we giving him all these subsidies? And who else is getting all these subsidies? And if it's not good for America, if it doesn't help us, why is this happening? Donald Trump, once again, we've seen this before, is admitting that because Elon Musk helped him out, gave him hundreds of millions of dollars, or supported his reelection effort with hundreds of millions of dollars, that means he lets him keep his subsidies. I mean, the blatant quid pro quo and favoritism here is really gross, but let them fight. Because when they fight, they do two things. They pull the curtain back and we can see how corrupted Donald Trump is. But we also put, again, counterbalancing pressure. We have these Republicans pulled in both directions. If I don't vote for this bill, then Elon might get me primaried. But if I don't vote for this bill, Donald Trump might get me primaried. But if I do, Elon might. And so maybe they could stop thinking about the money and actually vote their conscience. The trouble is the conscience for a lot of these people aligns perfectly with this effort to rid America of anyone who is not perceived to be white. That is what's going on here. And it is a fact. That is what's going on in these prison camps. That is why there is so much racism against a brown man running for mayor of New York. Okay, now I got more here. I want to talk about the bill itself. I'm going to talk about the bill itself, and I want to share with you the reality of how unpopular it is. So here is Harry Enton of CNN. Let's play this.
They don't think of it as one big beautiful bill. They think of it as one big bad bill. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at the big beautiful bill, net favorable ratings. I got 5 different polls for you on the screen, and you don't have to be a mathematical genius to know that these are horrible numbers. Washington Post, minus 19 points. Pew Research Center, minus 20 points. Fox News, minus 21 points. Quinnipiac University, minus 26 points. And then KFF takes the cake at minus 29 points on the net favorable rating. Holy Toledo, you just never see numbers this poor. I have been trying to look through the history books to find if there was another piece of legislation that was on the verge of passing that was as unpopular as this one. And Boris Sanchez, I cannot find one.
Yikes, that says a lot. Harry, often as folks learn more about what these bills contain, and let's be frank, lawmakers actually sell what they contain, we see them become more popular. Has that been the case here?
I'll give you a one-word answer. No, it hasn't become more popular. What are we talking about here? Well, Quinnipiac University, we mentioned that, right? Well, Quinnipiac University, the big, beautiful bill, the net favorable rating on it, we mentioned minus 26 points now. They pulled it back in early June. It was the same, minus 26 points. Simply put, the bill was unpopular in early June, and it is just as unpopular now. To quote Sir Charles Barkley, terrible, terrible, terrible. We're talking about a minus 45 net favorable rating among independents, the center of the electorate. You just can't win in politics when you have a minus 45 net favorable rating among independents. Now, the key question is, Boris, why is this bill so unpopular? And I think we can see it pretty well here, which is Donald Trump was reelected back in November because the American people thought that his policies and his agenda during the first term helped their family, or more likely to help than hurt their family. It is the exact opposite when it comes to the big, beautiful bill. All right, Trump's policies in your family. The big, beautiful bill. Get this. Just 23% of Americans say that the policies or the big, beautiful bill helps their family, compared to 49% who say that they hurt their family. Very different than Trump's first term agenda, where you saw the help at 44%.
Okay, I can't really listen to his voice anymore. The content is good. Oh, let me just take a moment to thank my dear friend, Jenny B. Hi, Jenny, who just texted me to tell me that she went into my office because I'm away from Michigan at the moment to water my office plants. Yay. Thank you so much. Okay, so wildly unpopular bill. And so I see someone in the chat saying, why don't they just vote? Why don't they just go and vote? And the answer is John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader, does not want to have a vote and have the bill not pass, right? Because remember, first it's got to pass the Senate. And this is the so-called reconciliation bill. So remember, they didn't need a filibuster. They didn't need 60 votes to end the debate, right? They already only needed 51 and they got it. And now in order to pass the bill. They also just need 51 votes, but then it's got to move over to the House. The House has to now reconcile the differences. Donald Trump is pushing them to have this on his desk before Friday. There's no magic to that. It's just a lot of pressure, and pressure in a deadline often concentrates the mind. But this bill is wildly unpopular. And let's hear why from some folks. Let's hear first from Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut. I'm going to have you, then I'm going to play Tom Tillis.
Fun? Are you having a great time, Senator?
No, this sucks.
Good for you.
We're debating a bill that's going to cut health care for 16 million people. It's going to give a tax break to, massively wealthy people who don't need any more money. They're going to be kids who go hungry because of this bill. This is the biggest reduction in, nutrition benefits for kids in the history of the country. I mean, this is the most deeply immoral piece of legislation that I have ever voted on in my entire time in Congress. We're obviously going to continue to offer these amendments to try to make it better. So far, not a single one of our amendments to try to make the bill better has passed. But we'll be here all day, probably all night, giving Republicans the chance over and over and over again to slim down the tax cuts for the corporations, or to make life a little bit less miserable for hungry kids, or maybe don't throw as many people off of health care, maybe don't close so many rural hospitals. It's going to be a long day and a long night.
They really want to.
Wow. Now, I'm going to share some numbers with you later, right? The numbers of how much money is going to go into ICE and what this looks like in terms of how much money you are going to lose versus how much more the billionaires are going to get, or the 1%. 99% of us, if we earn a certain income, I can show you on the charts how much less we are going to have. How much more essentially we're going to have to pay in taxes, and then how much less the super wealthy are going to have to pay. Now let's listen to Tom Tillis. This is the Republican senator who's decided not to run again because he refuses to sign on to this bill. He does not want to hurt the people in his state.
So what do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? When the White House managers advising the president are not telling him that the effect of this bill is to break a promise. And the last time I saw a promise broken around health care, with respect to my friends on the other side of the aisle, it's when somebody said, if you like your health care, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. We found out that wasn't true. That made me the second.
I got to say, I was able to keep my doctor. I don't know if other people had that issue. Maybe so, but let's continue.
Republican Speaker of the House since the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen, because we betrayed the promise to the American people. 2 years later, 3 years later, it actually made me a U.S. Senator, because in 2010, it had just been proposed. And just anticipation of what was going to happen was enough to have a sea change election that swept Republicans into the majority for the second time in 100 years. Now, Republicans are about to make a mistake on health care and betraying a promise. It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs. Now, those amateurs that are advising him, not Dr. Oz, I'm talking about White House healthcare experts, refused to tell him that those instructions that were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse all of a sudden eliminates a government program that's called the provider tax. We have morphed a legal construct that admittedly has been abused and should be eliminated into waste, fraud, and abuse.
Okay, so you hear him trying to rally his Republican colleagues, saying, guys, you're being hypocrites. This is far worse than a promise that you can keep your doctor that he says wasn't kept. Okay. There's more now. Let's now look at some of the lies. Let's start with, I want to start with Tommy Tuberville. And you're going to see he's in the tank for Trump and he's lying. Again, but I want you to hear this because we're going to contrast it to another senator who gives away the game.
Have already said that you're going to vote for the bill. I just thought, I mean, I know you talk a lot about the deficit, and I don't doubt your sincerity. Last time you and I spoke was about the deficit. The time before that, I think I didn't ask you enough about the deficit in our conversations, and I said, I'll have you back. We'll talk about it. It is an important issue. I'm just surprised that you're already a yes on this bill instead of trying to exact more deficit reduction.
I was a yes on the motion to proceed to hopefully get Rick Scott's amendment in here, which would save another $500 billion if we stop adding to Medicaid expansion population on January 1st, 2029. By the way, nobody would get kicked off Medicaid. If states want to provide Medicaid for single adults that could work and probably should have a job, they can do that under normal Medicaid, and those people would get the same match as a disabled child. $1.33 for every dollar that gets stuck into Medicaid. So again, I set the score on the taxes, which is, again, preventing a massive tax increase aside, and then you take a look at, this is about as good as we can get. I don't like it. I would like to get a lot more, but at some point in time, you have to recognize reality. And if we don't pass this bill, we have a massive $4 trillion tax increase, which, again, even the Democrats wouldn't vote to increase those taxes or do away with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act when they had every opportunity to do it. Yeah. They just spent ourselves into $1.9 trillion.
Okay. This whole myth about how it's all about people who, the only people who are like on Medicaid, that there are all these people, huge chunk of them who aren't working, right? We've looked at those data, right? And we know that they're misleading us on this, right? We have seen these numbers and we know for sure, we've looked at KFF's website, we look at the charts, that it might only be like, of all the people who are on this, who are on Medicaid, who are between 18 and 65, right? Because that's, before Social Security, and these are people who aren't, filing as disabled, right? They're not labeled as that. We know that only 8% of them aren't either working full-time, working part-time. So the vast majority, we're talking about like 98% of the people, so 92% of the people, as if I remember the numbers, are either working full-time, working part-time, taking care of a child or family member, or themselves have a kind of a disability, although they're not filing for it. They could be sick or ill temporarily, or they're in school. Right. So they're lying here. Right. And how we find out is, let's take a look at Mark Wayne Mullen, because he gives away the game. I want you to listen to this carefully, and we'll talk on the other side.
Over 70 million people signed up for Medicaid. Now, you're going to tell me there's not room to make cuts to actually have it in place, Medicaid in place, for those that it was actually designed for?
Okay. Did you hear the numbers? He's starting to say, I want to hear this, that there's around, I think he said something like 75 million people who are signed up for Medicaid. And then he tries to say, shouldn't it be only available for people it was designed for? And what he's about to say, I just need to give you a heads up, he's claiming incorrectly that Medicaid is only supposed to be for people who don't have jobs. That is not true. So let's listen to this, and we're going to compare it. We're going to really look at what's going on here. Here we go.
There's only over 70 million people signed up for Medicaid. Now, you're going to tell me there's not room to make cuts to actually have it in place, Medicaid in place for those that it was actually designed for, there's plenty of room there. And as I said, no one likes to lose federal income dollars either, but the different states are taking advantage of it, and we're giving the states till 2032, so we're giving them 7 years to wean themselves off the federal dollar that they're taking advantage of. Now, it doesn't mean that our Medicaid matches still aren't going to be there. That just means that they took advantage of Obamacare and inflated their numbers in Medicaid that people that are signed up currently in their state should never be there, like able-bodied working individuals that have no dependency, no medical condition, and no reason to work other than they're lazy. And what we're saying is hey, how about you work 20 hours a week? Now, you and I probably work 20 hours over the weekend.
Exactly.
But let's say you work 20 hours over and by the way, you don't even have to work. You can volunteer if you want to, or you can go to college, but you have to do something to better yourself.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, thank you very much for joining us. Long day ahead for you.
Thank you, sir.
And as we go to break, you're taking a live look at the field.
So what's confusing here is he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Okay. So on the one hand, he's saying Medicaid is only supposed to be for people who can't work. And he's noticing that around, there's a part of the other clip, rest of the clip where he says, well, about half the people who are on Medicaid are working. So yeah. I'm sorry. There's something I'm looking at I'm sorry. Let me back up. The bigger part of the clip is this. And I when I back up, he is complaining that around 75 million people are on Medicaid, but only around half of that, only around 35 million people are below the poverty level. Okay, so part of it is, this is what gives away the game. If about 35 million people or about 40 million people are above the poverty level and they're still on Medicaid, that means that they are working, and that's why they are getting Medicaid. Now, there are also people who are working full-time and are below the poverty level because we have not increased the minimum wage. So they are, I don't know if I made this entirely clear, but what the data show us is, again, only a small percentage of people on Medicaid aren't either working in school or taking care of someone or themselves sick. That's a fact. And the other fact is, Medicaid is designed not just for people below the poverty level, but people above, because our poverty level is so low that people cannot afford to buy healthcare, and they often have jobs that do not give them medical insurance, right? So they have to rely on Medicaid. Okay, I hope I made that clear. Now, one more. Let's play one more of these crazy stories about it, and then we will get to Reverend Warnock as a palate cleanser.
Program. You guys should be able to cut a lot of waste in this, but it seems like there's been some, even Republicans, that are resistant to do that. Why?
Yeah, a couple points I just have to make, Lawrence. Number one is there's 7 million healthy American men out there, working age, that are not working. I'd love to help them find a job. Second point is this: we're actually increasing funding for Medicaid. We're increasing funding for Medicaid higher than the rate of inflation. We're going to increase it to the tune of $200 billion a year when this is all said and done. So when they talk...
Let me just say something. That number 7 million, he's claiming there's 7 million men out there who aren't working. And he's suggesting that they are all on Medicare. And so you know that it was only 65 million on our KFF chart. I'm going to pull that up just so you can look at what I'm talking about on Medicaid. Okay, let's just look at this chart again, because I have it in my head, but sometimes I might have the numbers not fully at the tip of my mind. And here we go. So you see this chart. We've looked at this chart before. Okay. So I just want to show you. So I always want to share my sources. There are 26 million people, 26 million people who are on Medicaid. And you can see that 8% are not working due to retirement, inability to find work, or other reason, right? You see this. So we get this 44% working full time. You can see 20% working part-time, 12% not working due to caregiving, and on, right? And he's claiming that he's implying that the people who are on Medicaid, that there's a huge chunk of them, he's implying that 7 million of them are somehow on Medicaid, and they're these men who aren't working, able-bodied men. So let's look at this. Even if 8%, even if the entire 8% of the people who aren't working are these men who can't find work, and let's say we even got rid of the ones who are retired, right? So 8%, if you take out your calculator with me and you take that calculator out and you say 0.08 times, oops, that shouldn't be right. Yeah, 0.08 times and 26 million equals 2 million. That equals 2 million. So I'm going to stop sharing. 2 million. So if every single person who was not in a category of working full or part-time or in school or taking care of someone, that would be 2 million. Okay, so he's lying. It's only 2 million people, right? And unless my math is wrong, someone check me. It's not 7 million. So he's separately thinking, okay, we know there's 7 million men out there who are not working. I want to find them a job. Well, if we look at those 2 million people and you think it's 50-50, probably only 1 million of them are men, right? So it's not that every single man who isn't working is on Medicaid. It just doesn't seem to be accurate. And I just don't understand how people can say shit like this. Let's keep going with
people not being on Medicaid anymore. Half of those people are on it because of fraud or some type of abuse of the system. The other half is because they're unwilling to work 20 hours a week. And you can volunteer. You can go to school. We want to help you find a job. A job brings dignity. It brings purpose. We're all about people finding a great way to live that American dream that President Trump talks about.
Yeah. Well, my mom and dad, they preach religiously.
Okay. But this is what they're doing. This is a setup. It's to make it more palatable. And as we've talked about, these work requirements aren't merely work requirements. They're going to hurt the people who are working full-time or part-time because, let's say you lose your job or you have piecing things together, all the additional reporting requirements. If you make a mistake and you miss a date, I mean, who hasn't ever in their life sent a credit card bill, a payment late, right? Or accidentally bounced a check. Maybe billionaires don't do that. I don't know. They seem to do that a lot, right? Donald Trump's had his businesses file for bankruptcy, but for the rest of us, then you would incur a fee and maybe you get on the phone and beg to have it reversed. But with these folks, there's no getting on the phone and begging to have your Medicaid reinstated. They'll kick you off and it will take forever to get back on. That's how they are trying to save money. Okay, guys. Now, I want to share this with you as another backup. I'm sorry. Let me just share with you. This is the palate cleanser. This is going to be Warnock. And I thought I just had him on here. I promised you. Here we go. Reverend Warnock from Georgia. Love this. This is as powerful as Chris Murphy. And let me just say, I want to make this comment from earlier. I showed you Chris Murphy and you hear a voice. It was Katie Tour saying, "Are you having fun?" And he's like, "No, this isn't fun. This is the most immoral bill I've ever worked on." Good for him. Because there's this way, and I know I'm like that. Oh, this is fun, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not fun to watch people, millions of people, have their health care ripped away from them. We know millions of people will die as a result of this. It's not great. Okay, so let's listen to Warnock with this moral clarity.
Are engaged in Robin Hood in reverse, this body of stealing from the poor in order to give to the rich. This massive transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top. Yeah, this is socialism for the rich. And when the people hear about it, guess what? They don't like it. Democrats and Republicans and independents, when the people hear about what's in this big, ugly bill, they don't like it. And that's why the folks on the other side are trying their best to fast track it. That's why they're trying to pass it, and they haven't even finished writing it. They're twisting themselves in knots, making their members walk the plank under the threat of a primary to pass this big, ugly bill. The American people do not want to rob our children of food and health care and then burden them with trillions in debt to give billionaires and wealthy corporations another tax cut. The people do not want this bill. And so if the people do not want this bill, but they are trying to pass it, here's the question you got to ask yourselves at home. You have to ask yourselves, well, who are they working for? Who are they fighting for? Who do they think matters? Do you think they are working for you?
No, I don't. Now, Reverend Raphael Warnock, as you know, in addition to being a senator, is also a pastor, and he is a pastor at the Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church, and he's been there since 2005. And my understanding is that John Lewis was one of his parishioners. I am fortunate enough to have met him in person, and he is, you can see that he's a passionate speaker, and you can also see where his heart is. And as a one-on-one experience, he is just such a calming presence. He is bereft of any pretense or arrogance or showiness. And I am someone who, as you know, is dramatic. Maybe I'm faux pretentious, but around him, you find your inner calm, your inner sense of morality and purpose. There's just something about him. And so I would just say he is the real deal. Now, one last thing before we do Crazy Town, because we've got a doozy. We have got a double scoop of Crazy Town for you. Okay, so this is what I've got. I wanted to share my receipts. This is, I mentioned that JD Vance, this is a screenshot from Twitter that I mentioned that he really cares mostly about the fascism, racism, and anti-immigrant part. And he says, everything else, the CBO score, the proper baseline, the minutia of the Medicaid policy is immaterial compared to the ICE money and immigration enforcement provisions. That is what he is about. I can translate that. You know, CBO is a Congressional Budget Office score where there's this legislation called PAYGO they have to follow, and that's one thing. This proper baseline is huge, right? This is the fight they've been having about will the tax cuts for billionaires and corporations that Donald Trump put in place at the end of 2017, right before Christmas of 2017, they're due to expire this year. And so, and if they want to reinstate them, that's a new tax cut, right? Because way back in 2017, when that budget was being scored, the promise was, or it was based on the fact that they would expire now. Okay, you got it. But the Republicans are trying to argue, no, we should pretend like that they already existed. That's our baseline. Whatever. That minutia, and it matters because it means they can get more cuts for billionaires and corporations, But JD Vance says, all I care about is the fascism. And speaking of the fascism, I want to show you this. This is Jacob Soboroff's image. And he said, this is the reporter from MSNBC who's on the ground in California. I obtained this from a community member minutes after arriving on scene following a raid at the Cypress Park Home Depot this morning. So this is from yesterday. They detained day laborers. Look at these guys. Now, someone pointed out to me, the guy on the left with that orange gun, someone said that's a paint gun and not a real gun. That same guy appears to be wearing like those Google glasses, are they Google, Meta glasses where you can record on your glasses what's going on. So this is, let me just show you again. This is what's happening in America. These guys are rolling in masks, in fatigues, in air-conditioned trucks, because that's, they're cosplaying soldiers. And they're rolling into these Home Depots and terrorizing day laborers who are trying to earn a buck and who are trying to support their families and live the American dream. And in a world filled with JD Vance's and Kristi Noem's and Donald Trump's and fascist Barbies like Carolyn Leavitt, be Emma Lazarus. Be a beacon of light. We have to stop this. Now, on that note, let us do Crazy Town. Here we go. I got a double scoop, I promised you. Let's go. Our first scoop of Crazy Town is Donald Trump admitting that he wants to be a dictator like Xi, because then he could just get his legislation passed without any debate. Let's play that.
You have to get it done fast, because in China, you know how long it takes? One day, it's called President Xi. Boom, it's okay. Over here, we're going to have almost the same thing. We're getting fast approvals. And you can do nuclear, because nuclear now is safe and good and inexpensive. But you can do oil and gas. You can do coal. And the reason we do coal is because, and I call it clean, beautiful coal.
Okay. His bullshit about clean coal. Can't listen. So he wants to be like Xi. He wants to be a dictator. We've heard this, right? Okay. Second scoop of Crazy Town, because this is crazy. Okay. So, on my second scoop of Crazy Town is Donald Trump, I kid you not, introducing two new fragrances. New fragrance, one for men and one for women. Both are called 4547 after his presidencies. I have no idea what they smell like, nor do I want to. I want to give before I show you this, I want to give some credit to Kevin Cruz, a professor from Princeton, historian. And first, I need to tell you, he made it when he shared this video of this ad. He made a reference. He didn't directly name Sinclair Lewis. However, you can get the reference. So you might remember the author Sinclair Lewis wrote, "When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross." I think you are aware of that. What Kevin Cruz had to say after seeing this ad, and I need to find this quote. Seeing this particular ad with Donald Trump offering up his new perfume fragrances, I think that let me just find that for you. Sorry, he basically, I want to quote him accurately because I think this is utterly brilliant. But I've got to. He posts a lot. 1 second. He basically said, when fascism comes to the United States. Give me let me play this for you first, and then I will find his quote, because I think this is crazy as hell. Let's go.
Are here. They make a great Christmas present. I've named them Fight, Fight, Fight because they represent winning. We all want to be winning. We have to win as a nation. We want to win as a family. This fragrance is all about strength and success and confidence for men and for women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to grab one for your loved ones too. They'll thank you and they'll even smell good. Enjoy, have fun, keep on winning, and Merry Christmas.
Okay, so that's the video of the Fight, Fight, Fight fragrances, but he has he's got new ones now. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see the 45, 47 fragrances. Here we go. Okay. So here we go. This is the Trump fragrances. Trump fragrances are here. They're called Victory 45, 47 because they're all about winning, strength, and success for men and women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to get one for your loved ones too. Enjoy, have fun, and keep winning. Go to, and then he has his fragrances. This is a new fragrance, right? And this came out yesterday, and wow, that's kind of amazing. So here's what Kevin Cruz had to say. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in cheap cellophane and marked down to $4.99 in the bargain bin. That's where we are, my friends. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. And as always, please remember, now more than ever, please pay attention to your physical health, your relational health, your intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. Thank you so much, Prism.
Hello, Prism mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.